From January 1918 to December 1920, a deadly influenza outbreak infected 500 million people across the world. Estimates suggest between 50 and 100 million people died from the virus, up to 5% of the planet's population. The influenza pandemic occurred in 3 waves and killed more people than any other illness in recorded history. The Spanish flu strain killed its victims with a swiftness never seen before. In the United States, stories abounded of people waking up sick and dying on their way to work. The symptoms were gruesome. Sufferers would develop a fever and become short of breath. Lack of oxygen meant their faces appeared tinged with blue. Hemorrhages filled the lungs with blood and caused catastrophic vomiting and nosebleeds, with victims drowning in their own fluids. Unlike so many strains of influenza before it, Spanish flu attacked not only the very young and very old, but also healthy adults between the ages of 20 and 40. Epidemiologists still dispute the exact origins of the virus, but there is some consensus it was the result of a genetic mutation that perhaps took place in China. But what is clear is that the new strain went global because of the massive and rapid movement of troops around the world. The drama of the war also served to obscure the unusually high mortality rates of the new virus. At this early stage, the illness was not well understood, and deaths were often attributed to pneumonia. 2 years' worth of sickness decreased the average American lifespan by 10 years overall. Many cities and entire countries placed full restrictions on all public gatherings and travel in an attempt to halt the spread of the epidemic. Theaters, churches, and other public places were closed for over a year, and many funerals were limited to only 15 minutes. In fact, so many people had the virus that, in some locations, everyday life effectively stopped. US public health authorities recommended masks for doctors, nurses, and anyone taking care of influenza patients. Newspapers provided instructions on how to make masks at home, and published photographs of masked nurses. Masks were just one of the non-pharmaceutical interventions, or social distancing policies, adopted to contain the epidemic, along with closing schools, prohibiting public gatherings, and advising changes in personal behavior. However, many people refused to wear them during the Spanish flu of 1918, saying that government-mandated mask enforcement violated their civil liberties. An anti-mask league was even formed in San Francisco to protest the legislation. Registers complained about appearance, comfort, and freedom, even after the flu killed an estimated 195,000 Americans in October alone. Men needed more convincing than women to heed the advice of public health officials. Some men associated masks with femininity, and behaviors like spitting, careless coughing, and otherwise dismissal of hygiene made men the weak links in hygiene discipline during the 1918 pandemic. For that reason, public health leaders rebranded personal care as a display of patriotism and duty to make men wear masks. The transition from recommending masks for healthcare providers to encouraging and even requiring masks in public happened gradually and inconsistently. Most famously, San Francisco, California, along with other Western cities such as Seattle, Washington, Juneau, Alaska, and Phoenix, Arizona, passed laws requiring masks in public. Mask-wearing ordinances mainly popped up in the Western states, and most people complied with them. The nation was still fighting in World War I, and officials framed anti-flu measures as a way to protect the troops from the deadly outbreak. The first recorded infection was in a U.S. Army private stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas on March 4, 1918. The United States and the other nations at war initially suppressed news of the flu. There was a sense that following these new health precautions was patriotic. As one public service announcement put it, "The man or woman or child who will not wear a mask now is a dangerous slacker." This sense of wartime duty and the fear of being seen as a slacker may have motivated those who complied with mask orders in cities like San Francisco, Seattle, Denver, and Phoenix. In 1918, surgical masks were made of gauze, and many people's flu masks were made of gauze too. Volunteers made and distributed many of these, and newspapers carried instructions for those who may want to make a mask for themselves or donate some to the troops. Still, not everyone used the standard surgical design or material. For the small percentage of people who went without a mask entirely, reports suggest their issue had less to do with the science behind them and more to do with personal comfort. The masks were called muzzles, germ shields, and dirt traps. They gave people a pig-like snout. Some people snipped holes in their masks to smoke cigars. Others fastened them to dogs in mockery, and bandits used them to rob banks. Some businesses worried customers would shop less if they had to wear a mask when they went outside, and some people claimed mask ordinances were an infringement upon civil liberties. Cities that passed masking ordinances in the fall of 1918 struggled to enforce them among the small portion of people who rebelled. Common punishments were fines, prison sentences, and having your name printed in the paper. In one horrific incident in San Francisco, a special officer for the Board of Health shot a man who refused to wear a mask, as well as 2 bystanders. This was far different from the treatment San Francisco's leaders received when they didn't comply. At a boxing match, a police photographer captured images of several supervisors, a congressman, a justice, a Navy rear admiral, the city's health officer, and even the mayor, all without masks. The health officer paid a $5 fine, and the mayor later paid a $50 fine. But unlike other mask slackers, they received no prison time. San Francisco's first masking order began in October and ended in November after the World War I armistice. In January, where flu cases began to surge again in San Francisco, the city implemented a second mask order. This time, the resistance was much more intense. A group of dissenters that included a few physicians and one member of the Board of Supervisors formed the Anti-Mask League, which held a public meeting with over 2,000 attendees. Yet even though compliance was high, some complained that the masks were uncomfortable, ineffective, or bad for business. Officials were caught in public without masks, and after the war ended, there was no longer a sense that people should wear masks to keep the troops safe. The resistance to San Francisco's second mask order may have been more intense because the country was no longer at war, and some residents didn't feel the same sense of patriotic duty they had before. Experts reviewing evidence from 1918 concluded that flu masks failed to control infection. In December 1918, the American Public Health Association recommended that the wearing of proper masks should be compulsory for medical staff, occupations such as barbers, dentists, etc., and all who are directly exposed to infection. This is Films Prism. If you like the video, press the like button, share the video, and subscribe for updates on our latest videos.